So the sooner you realize that, you know what, I don't care about competition. I don't care about failure. I'm willing, hit me in the face. I'm willing to get back up and do it all over again. So to me, to be a true warrior, a true champion, you got to relish in the fact that, you know what, I'm willing to try. I don't care about the fail. I'll make the corrections. I'll fix it. And I'm going to be right back there in front of you. And you're going to have to beat me again.
To another episode of The Burn. I am Ben Newman, and we are bringing you stories of an athlete, an entertainer, an entrepreneur, individuals that have performed at the highest possible level, but individuals who also understand and set an example for us of what it means to have the burn. So many coaches and speakers that do the work that I do, they talk about why and purpose. But they forget to talk about that burn that ignites why and purpose that then causes you to be disciplined in your daily action. And when you talk about disciplined in your daily action, I don't know if we have a guest who exemplifies, have ever had a guest who exemplifies discipline over a long period of time and then the championships that come with it. So I normally don't do a lot of resume stuff, but for Big Whit, he's going to get a little resume stuff. Andrew Whitworth played 16 years in the NFL. In college, LSU, before college, obviously a high school football player, championships all across the board. So what I'm excited for all of you to hear and to learn from Andrew today is, how do you establish a burn that lasts over 20 years, playing a game that you love and staying committed to the process that causes you to win championships at every single level in which you've ever played the game? That's a pretty powerful thing, Big Whit. So Andrew Whitworth, welcome to The Burn.
Hey man, I appreciate it so much. It's always hard to even sit back and think about all those moments, and man, so special. I think of the people and the teams and just the environment, you know, all the support that went into it. And that's the cool thing to me of championships is it's not as much when you really win it about you as it's about looking around and seeing all the people that had a part of getting you there. Every time I hear it, it just brings back those feelings.
So I want to share something. I did not intend on sharing this, but with what you just said, I'm going to share this. You and I first had the opportunity to meet when Coach Rath, I had come in for training camps and we had met, but really got to spend more time together at the facility and on the sideline in the Sunday night game against Seattle. But there's something I will never forget about that trip. It was the Sunday night game. You guys had to win to stay alive for the playoffs. It was 1 year removed from making the Super Bowl and now underperforming. And I remember when you said to me, man, you kind of looked around. It's towards the end of the game. I believe it was the fourth quarter. And Goff had just gone on a great run. You guys had protected him. He went down the field, scores a touchdown, really was the TD that secured that game that night. But I remember you looked at me and you were talking about how guys just have to believe. There's something special that was going on. And I remember, I think you said, man, this is the shit right here that it takes. And there was just this fire in you that I'll never forget in that moment. And what I think is unique was you weren't the favorites for the Super Bowl that year, right? I mean, it wasn't even a playoff run that year. Yep. What was it during the ups and the downs through your career that kept you believing in what you just said, which is what it was all about, was the relationships?
I think to me, it's really that ability to realize that obviously there's things you're chasing and there's things you want to be successful at individually. But when you play a sport like the game of football, where it's going to come down to intangibles of toughness and discipline and effort and really, you know, that culture and that teamwork, people love to use that word. But what does that word really mean? To me, it means being vulnerable, learning how to trust each other, learning how to have patience for one another, and learning how to instill confidence in each other. And to me, when you find a team that all of a sudden it's like, wow, like we're starting to be patient with one another. We're being vulnerable to one another. Like guys are starting to share. Guys are starting to be open about something they're struggling with. They're willing to kind of give that to their teammates and trust their teammates with, hey, this is something I'm dealing with. And then, by the way, they're also like starting to kind of have confidence in one another and wanting to bring each other along. that feeling of a team culture starting to take over and having those little moments where you just find it in a game where you're down and you just through grit, determination, and your culture, you find a way to win the game. And then guys come back in and you don't see them take that for granted and they dig even deeper in. Like, that's what fires me up. I mean, I love that more than I love a win. I love that more than I love any moment in sports, is when I see people start to believe in themselves and to believe in each other. I think that's one of those feelings I've always chased, I've always loved. Doesn't matter what industry or what I do or what I'm involved in. I love to see people want to put their arms around each other and have that moment where they realize, man, you know what I'm in, the scenario I'm in, the situation I'm in, I believe in it, and I believe in the people I'm doing it with. And to me, that's where a burn comes from, is that everybody has to bring their own individual feeling of desire and passion, but then they got to learn how to share it with the people they're doing it with, and they're having the chance to chase that championship with. And when they can do that and find that way to be together and have that burn, that passion, that belief that we all are going to be able to accomplish if we're on the same page, to me, that's one of the rarest things in sports, and it's what fires me up to play the game.
Yeah, I love hearing that perspective. It's almost like you're taking your burn, and then you got to say, well, everybody's got to connect to their burn, and you put that fire together. That's what leads to a championship, because I think that's what a lot of coaches miss. And I love hearing you say that, is that just think of that, right? One fire unites with another fire, unites with another fire, unites with 53 other fires. That's a hot ass fire that most people are not going to want a part of. And that, I believe, is what happened with the Rams. And I know you believed in it, never stopped believing in it, never stopped believing in the story. But there's a couple of things I want to highlight. First, I'd love to hear from you. I always talk about how when you watch film, the game slows down for you, right? So when you prepare, the game slows down for you. So to play 16 years, and we're going to talk about the physical condition you always kept yourself in, but how important was it for you, the burn, but also the mental side of breaking down game film and doing the extra work for the game to slow down for you? How important was that for you to play so long?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, obviously later in my career, there's less things to break down other than just the individuals I played, because you really start to understand defenses and how they work. And unless there's some wrinkle that a defense has that you haven't seen, as a tackle in the NFL or a lineman, I'm not going to see a lot of things that are that much different over the years later in my career once I had that much experience. But when it really came down to doing my job, to understand enough tape to, like, I think sometimes a lot of guys want to watch tape, or you could apply that to anything, working out, eating right, watching tape. You kind of go through the motion of it, but what are you actually getting out of it? And so for me, I went into watching tape like, hey, I know I'm somebody who I love to be. I'm ADHD to the max, right? Like I can't ever sit still. It's part of what makes me who I am. Like as a lineman, as a big guy, like the fact that I can't ever sit still. I'm always training. I'm always finding a way to sweat and move. It makes me who I am. So I had to know going into like film sessions, I'm not somebody that's going to watch film for like 7 hours or 5. Like I need to know what I'm going in to get. And so for me, I went in to get, hey, I want to know all their habitual movements. What's their best pass rush move? 3rd and long, what's the move they're going with the most often? How many times do they use that move? What's their counters? Like, all right, you stop their best. What's the 2 counters they have in those situations? And then I want to know, all right, I want to see a long drive. When they get tired, what do they play like? Do they cower down, or do they dig in too? Is the guy pushes on them a little bit? Do they show some fatigue? Like, I want to know all those things when I go into a game, and I don't need to, the rest of it's just sitting there wasting my time. Now I want to take that information. I'm going to go sit on the field. And I used to love to do this when I was a rookie in the NFL, and even my first probably 8 to 9 years in the league. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, or Thursday night, I'd find time after practice and after my sessions to just at night, when the stadium was quiet, because in Cincinnati, our facility was in the stadium, I'd put some headphones in and I'd go on the field by myself, and I would play the game through imagery. Like I would just picture the guy I'm playing, and I could close my eyes and just visualize their moves, what they go to, how they move their body, like how they actually try to get to what they're doing and the tempo they play with. And I would try to mimic it as I was playing and walking through plays and snaps and just looking around in the arena. And to me, I would get in those moments and big moments in games, and I could visualize all those practices and I could visualize all those moments. And it would just put me at this calm to where I was like, I know exactly what he's going to do before he ever does it. And I would just feel their rushes more than I would block them. And to me, that was really what I used tape for in preparation for, is to find what I needed to maximize my time with.
I think that's so incredible, because when you think about it, I think a lot of times people think, well, I have to, like you gave the example, I got to spend 7 hours to prove that I did the 7 hours, as opposed to I'm going to have extreme intentional focus for exactly what it is that I'm looking for, so that I can attack that when I see it and feel it in the game. That is so powerful.
Yeah, and I think it really comes down to, like, how many, I would say this all the time, like the great players spend their time getting better at what they need to get better at. I see so many guys come in the league, and so many guys that like, they're a quick, twitchy guy, and all they do is work on quick, twitchy stuff. And I'm like, dude, you're not doing well because you're not strong enough. You're not doing well because you're not sitting down on blocks. You're not moving people in the line of scrimmage. Like, you're not covering the best. Like, you should be working on, every one of us has a special trait. And let's say that AD's special trait is up here. Whatever that you want to say his special traits are. What makes Aaron Donald the best player on the planet is he spends all his time bringing up everything that you might say is a weakness. Every time, everything he's working on is chasing his special trait, rather than these guys you see come in the league and it's like they're strong. All they do is bench press and squat and lift weights. They're getting no faster. They're not working on their conditioning. They're not working on their twitch. And then you take a twitchy guy and all he does is do twitch stuff. And it's like, you're not getting any better because you're not chasing your best trait. Like, your best trait, you should spend 10 to 20% of the time on. All the other things should be what all your time's consumed on. And that's how you bring up who you are as a player. And that's who the guys who last, is they start to eliminate their weaknesses, not maximize the only thing they're good at.
That's so powerful. And I know you have a belief, and I'm going to take you back. This is going to be fun for you, a belief in doing what I call the unrequired. And you alluded to it earlier, but the unrequired are the things that other people can't see. They don't want to do, they don't even want to talk about it, that the highest performers choose to make a priority. And I remember that season, my first visit there was training camp. And I remember watching you. We didn't really talk that much during training camp, but I remember watching you putting in extra work. I remember Eric Weddle putting in extra work. I remember Aaron Donald putting in extra work. I mean, these are like the leaders of the team setting the example. I left that training camp and I went back to Alabama. And I remember I talked to Coach Cochran, and I walked into Coach Cochran's office. I'm like, Coach Cochran, man, this guy, Big Whit, gets after it. He's like, Big Whit? He goes, that dog, man, that man is just different. Big Whit is just different. And, you know, Cochran is such a unique character. And he got so excited when I brought up your name, because he remembered you worked like that at LSU. So you see that at LSU, right? So it's not me going, this guy works hard. It's me going back to the source, because I knew Cochran worked with you at LSU. And then here I see you doing it with the Rams. And then let me speed forward, and I'm going to turn it back to you. The visit that I came for the game, I remember when Coach Rath and I were heading into the facility, and he goes, hey, we got to get in early. We got to get there about 6. We're going to have a rookie lift, and we got to do all this stuff. And so we walk into the building. We didn't have to turn the lights on because you had already turned the lights on. You were already sweating. You had your shirt off. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a 300-pound man with no fat on his body that looks like you do. And you were doing farmer's walks with your shirt off. I mean, you must have been there since 4 o'clock in the morning, because you had a full sweat on. And I thought to myself, man, I've heard Cochran talk about it. I've seen a little bit of it, but that was next level unrequired. What caused you to do that your whole career? I mean, from LSU to doing it with the Rams, what caused you to always say, I have to do this extra work?
I think, to me, I was always chasing, trying to beat myself. And the reason I say that is, in my mind, you know, let's just keep it real. When you play the game of football, this is a physical, grown man's game. I mean, you got to be tough. You got to have great conditioning. You got to have a mindset that nobody can break you. And I always had the mindset that It wasn't like I had to get 15 bench sets in or a bunch of squats in. It was like, how many times can I break myself off? That's what I used to always tell Coach Rath, like, hey, I'm just going to break myself off today. I don't know what it's going to look like. I got no idea what lifts I'm doing. I'm just going to crush myself. I don't know what's going to be involved. But to me, it was like, no man will ever put me in a situation to quit. I'll put myself in there first. So like I would try to make myself quit. So my workout might have no organization to it, like the extra stuff I did. Like I did all the team stuff, all the team laid workouts. That's what that was for. But my extra stuff might be, hey man, I'm just going to do carries until I quit. I'm just going to walk the field until I quit. Like I'm going to make myself quit today, because in my mindset, it was like, if I can always be the one who's willing to take myself to the deepest water without any help, without anybody having to get me there, then when I get in games and I get in those moments, I'll be tougher and I'll be willing to go deeper than any guy I face. And I don't ever want to feel like I'm ever tired on a football field. And that was always my objective. I should never feel too fatigued to make a block on the football field. And I was able to accomplish that in the NFL. Like I can really never think of a moment where it's like, oh man, I'm exhausted. I mean, obviously probably that helped playing at LSU and the humidity and the heat I got to play in, but in the NFL, that was my goal. Like I will never, ever be in a situation where I don't have enough gas to outlast my guy. And to me, that's what my unrequired time was about, is that I trust the coaches, the trainers, everyone else in the building for the plan of how to be a good football player. Like this is the scheme we're going to use. This is what you need to lift during the week. My unrequired time was, all right, what sets me apart? If this is what everybody on my team does, how do I set myself apart? How do I punish myself enough to where I'm more than just what the if you want to say required time is? I want to be more than that required time. I can actually remember in college, Coach Stacy Searles, my O-line coach for LSU under Nick Saban, I used to, if I played bad in the game on Saturday and I go into Sunday meetings and I didn't like how it went and I'm upset, or, my bad was probably, not as bad as I made it out to be, but in my mind, it wasn't up to my standard. Man, I would go out on the football field and push our sled. I'd go out and just try to find ways to punish myself, just because to me, like that's what I wanted to be, my own harshest critic. I wanted to push myself further than anybody else could push me. And that was always my mindset as a young player. And then I'd make myself walk back to my dorm, or my apartment, because it's like, hey, you don't deserve to ride the bus. Right now, you need to put in the work. I had a young guy who was a college buddy, got drafted to Cincinnati with me, Benny Brazil, and he ran in the '04 Olympics while we were in school. He was an unbelievable track star and a football player. The first ever two-time national champion in LSU's history in track and in football, two different sports. He used to always say this saying to me, man, hey, Whit, man, he'll be greater later. And I like, that was just, I kept that with me my entire career, is that like that stuck with me. Like if I'll put in the time, everything I've ever wanted, everything I've ever wanted to chase, it'll all be great later. Just right now, put the work in, put the time in, do the unrequired, and it'll be greater later.
That is so powerful. And then to know that mindset from, like I said, high school to college, all the way to this final championship run with the Rams. And I did a little something here for you. I bookended. That's a helmet from the 2000 Rams, me being a St. Louis kid. And so Kurt Warner and Falk and Holt, I got that one signed. And then so the bookend is that year to your year, which is the last championship for the Rams. What a special thing. And there's a quote when I think about championship teams and the spirit. One of my favorite quotes of yours: if you are a true champion, competition does not scare you, it makes you better. And when you look at the longevity of being a champion and that warrior mindset that you took in, like, this is going to make me better, almost like, are you saying in that quote that like you craved the competition because without it, you could never see how great you could be? Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think without the competition, without the opportunity to fail, you never know what success feels like. And so to me, I always thought of it like, hey, you're an offensive lineman. Here's the truth. Like, people aren't going to notice you until you do something wrong. I mean, that's the nature of our position. You either hold somebody, you give up a sack, you miss your block on a run play, all of a sudden, the announcer's saying your name, or people on TV know who you are. But if you're doing your job, they probably don't know who you are, because that's your job. And so to me, failure was always embarrassing. Or like, it's unlike a D lineman can jump out of his gap, running back and go for 80 yards. Nobody even knows, right? Nobody has any idea that that's what he was supposed to do. But an O lineman, you mess up, it's usually more than likely 90-something% of the time, everyone knows it was your job that you didn't do. So you naturally play a position where failure is going to be embarrassing, or a mistake is always going to be maximized. People are always going to know you made it. So the sooner you realize that, you know what, I don't care about competition. I don't care about failure. I'm willing, hit me in the face. I'm willing to get back up and do it all over again. So to me, to be a true warrior, a true champion, you got to relish in the fact that, you know what, I'm willing to try. I don't care about the fail. I'll make the corrections. I'll fix it. And I'm going to be right back there in front of you. And you're going to have to beat me again. And you're going to have to beat me again the next time, because I'm going to keep showing up and I'm going to find a way to chase success. And eventually I'll be on top.
I love it. It's just your journey, your mindset, your career, the longevity of championships is such a testament of what it means to be a champion. But I want to finish this Burn episode with what I believe being a champion really means. And I think you believe this as well. And it's what you do off the field. You know, I think people for so long, they paid attention to what you did on the field. I like to pay attention to the big picture. And I know what an NFL schedule is like, having worked with guys since 2013 in the league. And you don't get a lot of time off. And you intentionally, for years, I mean, your whole career, were always focused on giving back to the community, giving your time to your family. You know, Walter Payton Man of the Year, right? That's you giving more than any other, like setting the standard, not just for your play on the field, but for how you give and you serve. And then I look and there's a video, it's an amazing clip of you with your kids in the confetti after the championship, telling them daddy's going to be around a lot more now. Bro, that's the stuff that hits me, man, because I know, like, when you say relationships, there's dudes who are in a locker room who are like, oh yeah, I care about relationships, but like, I've been around you to watch it. I know how much that means to you. And I know how much you taking what the game did for you, you took that to make a difference in others' lives. And now I can see through some of these videos and seeing you, man, it's just awesome seeing you with your family. What's your legacy going to be? I mean, you've done so much already, but like, how important is legacy off the field to Andrew Whitworth?
I think it's important for me when I really think about the word legacy, or really, I think we're saying, what do you want people to remember you by? And I think, to me, I think the ultimate way to be remembered is that I think that you had a servant's heart and that you made things about more than just yourself. I think a lot of times when we talk about culture, we talk about leadership, we talk about championships, I think sometimes guys get really confused that only means, like, do I play as an elite player? Am I a Pro Bowler? Am I an All-Pro? Am I an All-SEC? Am I, an All-American? Like, that's great, man. But I know a lot of All-Americans, All-Pros, all these things that play on terrible football teams, and they're a part of terrible cultures. They're building a terrible culture. And the reality is like, what are you willing to do? Not just for the championship, but for your culture and for your locker room and for your business or your organization that you work in. Like, to me, the moments I'll remember of, like, my legacy will be days that I stayed after and picked up the locker room, and guys don't even know it. Like, I picked up their cleats and picked up their stuff and put it away and felt like, hey, I want to make sure the equipment managers know, like, I love you guys, man. It ain't right for our locker room to look like this. Like, they see that equipment room goes, man, Big Whit picked up the whole locker room for us, dude. That's cool as crap. Like, I feel important. He did that for us. I want to, like, I'll think of the moments that, like, the ops team or somebody that I, like, took them lunch or gave them all a gift certificate at the end of the year to just tell them how much they meant to me, or the training staff, taking them to dinner, taking them on trips in the off season, like, things to just make people feel important and special. And, like, you don't just take them for granted. To me, I hope that my legacy will be when people were with me in an organization, or they had a chance to be a part of things with me, they'll go, one guy that I know appreciated what I did for a living, like, this dude, he appreciated me. And I think when you make other people feel better about themselves and better about their value to who they are to you, then that spreads to other people, because then they go and do the same thing to people around them. It makes them take notice of what that meant to them. And then they do it to others. And then before you know it, just like a bad cold, that infects the whole building. And everybody in that building now has a demeanor and an attitude and a culture of, man, I want to make sure the people around me feel better about who they are and why I appreciate them. And when you start to have that, you are the ultimate burn, because nobody wants a piece of that fire. Because when your fire in an organization goes from 3 guys that are really special, they're just good football players and can be good on a football field, to 100 people that love each other, care for each other, and are going to do anything they can to fight for one another, that's one big ass fire you don't want to be part of. And to me, that's what the ultimate goal was. And I hope that that's what my legacy ends up being, is that everywhere I was, it was about the people I got an opportunity to do stuff with.
Well, I know you are working the mic on TV these days in retirement, but you just dropped the damn mic on that answer. That's why I was so excited to have you on the burn, because it's just amazing the mindset that you showed up with and what you did on the field and what you did off the field. I appreciate how you show up in life. I appreciate the impact that you continue to make. And man, it fires me up and inspires me. It was always an honor for me to be able to watch you go about your work, because those are the things that I learned on my journey that caused me to say, man, you got to step it up a little bit. I got to give a little bit more. And so just thank you. Thank you for all that you do. And I appreciate you.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for joining us for The Burn. You guys know how we do this every single week. This one was special. And I think this one, I've got to say to you, you got to share this. You know, if you're part of a team in a culture, in a business, or you're part of a football team or another sport, listen to what this Hall of Famer just said. He broke down life. He broke down mindset. He broke down burn. He broke down unrequired. He broke down all of it. And it all comes down to how you choose to show up every single day. So Andrew Whitworth, future Hall of Famer. I mean, you might as well put that shit on the ballot now and give the man his gold jacket, because you know it's going to be the first ballot. I can't wait to see that. It's been a joy to watch your last 20 years, and I look forward to watching the next 20 and beyond. I thank you so much again.
It was an honor. Always is, man. Thank you so much.
This has been The Burn. Make sure you tune in every single week, and we'll catch you next week.